Welcome to our worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Abby Chodoff. I'm a member of the House and Property team. I'm one of the OWL teachers, and I sing in the choir. We especially want to welcome all the people from UU Society East in Manchester, Connecticut, who are joining us for worship this morning. We're very glad you're here. And I want to thank our Zoom hosts, Steve O'Day and Rebecca Smith, who are running the meeting logistics this morning. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles move us to remember that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pocumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face all the painful legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. We are here to support and celebrate one another and to renew ourselves with hope and gratitude and new resolve. If you are new or returning after a time away, welcome. We're very glad you're here. Please feel free to fill out a virtual visitor card. Doing that allows us to put you on our email contact list. There is a link to the card in the chat. We ask that you remain muted throughout the service and turn off your videos except during the greeting in order to help the technology work as smoothly as possible. We hope you'll stay for social hour afterwards. It is a great way to engage in conversation with people you might not otherwise have met. And now we'll begin our service.
And before we do, I would just like to check in with our wonderful Zoom hosts and make sure that USNF is a co-host.
USNF was not and is
Thank
now. Thank you.
All right, we'll now begin our service. We, unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its high holy temple and comes into our sight to liberate us into life. And now please join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together. Now please join in singing together, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are," which we're going to wait just 2 seconds for because Booker has disappeared to try to make sure the internet is working properly. Yes, okay.
Good morning. My name is Jessica, and I'm the DRE here in Northampton. Today, I'm going to tell you the Passover story because last night was the first night of Passover. Passover is a Jewish holiday that lasts for 8 days, and it starts with 2 special meals called seders. A seder means order, and there's a very special order to the rituals that we do before the meal. One of the most important rituals is telling the story of Passover. And we've got pictures to help you imagine it. Long ago, the Jewish people came to Egypt and lived there in peace. Over time, new kings called pharaohs came to power, and they enslaved the Jews and made them work very hard. But the Jewish people survived and grew. The pharaoh, the leader, got worried and said, "There are too many of those Jews. I'm scared they're going to take over." So Pharaoh decided to ask the Jewish mothers to stop having sons, or to get them to. One mother put her son in a basket and hid him in the weeds of a river while her daughter kept watch. It just so happened that the Pharaoh's daughter went down to the river and found this baby in the basket, and she fell in love with him instantly. Please ignore the phone ringing. Not sure what just happened. All right, hopefully that was not a call about you not being able to hear me, but I don't see any messages in the chat. Okay, so we've got the baby in a basket, and Pharaoh's daughter found the baby and fell in love with him instantly. She named him Moses and brought him home. And Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house, raised just like royalty, never knowing that he was Jewish. However, Moses saw that the Jews were slaves, and he did not think it was okay. He got really angry about it, and in the end had a fight and ran away. He had to get out of there. So he became a shepherd in the desert. And he lived out in the desert for many years until he got a message that, in fact, he was Jewish, and it was his job to go back and help lead the Jews to freedom. When he got back, he discovered that the Jews had already been working together to plan an escape and to get their freedom. But they were glad to have a leader. They decided Moses should go to Pharaoh and demand freedom. You probably aren't surprised to hear that Pharaoh said no. Moses warned Pharaoh that bad things called plagues would happen if he did not let the Jews out of slavery. And in fact, there were 10 plagues, and we're just going to share 3 of them today. But after each of the terrible things that happened, the Jews demanded, "Let my people go." So you're welcome to join me in saying that after I share these plagues. So one of them was that there were frogs everywhere. Frogs in every corner of every house and everywhere outside. And the Jews said, "Let my people go." Another plague was hail in the desert. So there were huge hailstones, and people were so scared. And the Jews said, "Let my people go." And the last plague I wanted to share is locusts. So everywhere in the sky were locusts. And the Jews said, "Let my people go." And finally, after the 10th plague, Pharaoh had had enough. And he said, "Okay, I'll let you go." The Jews knew that he might change his mind at any moment. So they packed up and left as fast as they possibly could. Their bread didn't have time to rise, and it was flat like a cracker, which is why the Jews eat matzah on Passover. So they ran and ran, and just as they predicted, Pharaoh did change his mind. By the time the people reached the Red Sea, the Egyptian army was right behind them, and they were trapped. But they screwed up their courage and stepped into the water, and a miracle happened. The sea opened up to let them pass through, and then quickly closed behind them so the Egyptians couldn't follow. They had escaped and were now free and safe on the other side of the sea. They'd worked together, they hadn't given up, and finally they reached freedom together.
Let's join now in singing together hymn number 210, "Wade in the Water."
God's
And now it is time for us to greet one another. So you're invited to turn on your video if you would like to do so. You can wave, you may say hello in the chat if you'd like to say hello. If you're new or you're newish, then we would absolutely love to hear from you. Say hello and let us know where you're from. And of course, a big welcome to everybody from Manchester. We hope we hear from you in the chat as well.
Welcome, everybody. I see Kenneth, I see Jean, Susan, Sharon. Oh, now I see lots of people. Hello, hello, Ted and Nancy, Georgia, Teresa, good morning. Thanks for your Passover greeting. Hello, Alan. Who else do I see? All kinds of people. You know, this is kind of like romper room for those of us of a certain age. I always wondered why Miss Jean never said my name. So wonderful to see you all. So many people. It's really fun. Hi, Peg. Hello, hello, Al from, I assume Al from the mountains. Looks great there. Dara, Janice, Ellen Williams. Wonderful, wonderful to see you all. I hope that many of you will come back for social hour. In our congregation, people find that they have, over the last year, met and talked to and developed relationships with people they would otherwise never have met and gotten to know. So we're hoping that you'll join us, and we'll mix everybody up. And if you have the time, we'd love to have you stay for social hour after the service. And you're seeing the very real challenges of projected online services in our meeting this morning, and we're very grateful for your patience. We had some issues with the internet, so now we think it's all set. So anyway, wonderful to see you, and now it's time for us to sing out everyone who's going to religious education activities. We'll do that now. As you heard, last night was the first night of Passover, a celebration of the story of the Israelite people's escape from Egypt with Moses as their leader. And as Jessica said, the people are enslaved and they've been badly treated. And as a young man, Moses sees an Egyptian overseer abusing some slaves. This is more than a fight. He kills the overseer, and then he flees to the land of Midian to escape execution. And there he lives as a shepherd. He marries the daughter of the priest of the Midianites. And Moses is going to tell us a little bit more of what happened there.
I was keeping the flock of my father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. I led my flock beyond the wilderness, and I came to Horeb, which is the mountain of God. Suddenly, in front of me, there was a bush that was burning. It was blazing, but the fire did not consume it. I said to myself, "This is weird." I must stop a minute and investigate to see why this bush is not burned up. I came closer, and suddenly I heard a voice coming from the bush.
Moses, Moses,
I said, "Here I am."
come no closer. Remove your sandals. The place where you're standing is holy ground.
I was really scared. I took off my sandals. I was afraid to see who was speaking. The voice went on.
I have seen the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a land flowing with milk and honey. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
I thought, whoa. I said to him, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?"
I will be with you.
Let's just say I was not convinced. I said, "If I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what do I say?"
I am who I am. This is my name forever, and this is my title for all generations. They will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt, and they will go free.
I kept arguing. I said, "Suppose they don't believe me or listen to me, but say, 'No way, our God didn't appear to you.'" So then he asked me what was in my hand. I showed him my staff.
Throw it on the ground.
I threw it on the ground and it turned into a snake. I jumped back. He told me to grab it by the tail. And when I did, suddenly it was a staff again. Then, when I could breathe, I continued to object. And finally, I begged, "Oh, my Lord, I have never been a smooth talker, not in the past, not now with you. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." I could tell he was getting annoyed.
Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak.
At that point, I almost whined, "Oh, my Lord, please send someone else." He got angry. He spoke for the last time.
Now, what of your brother Aaron? I know he can speak with ease. Even now he is coming out to meet you, and he will be happy to see you. You will speak to him and put the words in his mouth. I will put the words in your mouth. I will be with you both, and I will tell you what to do.
And that was that. I shut up and did what I was told.
Thank you, Charlie and Aaron. Let's now sing hymn number 104, When Israel Was in Egypt's Land.
Oh,
You're up, Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Diamond from the Climate Action Group. This is the Social Justice Minute, which recognizes that our faith calls us powerfully to action on social justice and the environment. Power plants burning wood, biomass, contribute to climate change more than equivalent coal plants. Forests are destroyed to support these plants. Governor Baker supports siting the only Massachusetts biomass plant in a climate justice community near at least a dozen schools in Springfield, where there are already astronomical asthma rates. Burning 1,200 tons of woody fuel and probably some garbage daily will release enormous quantities of disease-causing fumes and particulate matter. The consequences will be horrible in Springfield, but the fumes will make their way to Northampton and probably Manchester. Electric ratepayers like you will be subsidizing the proposed plant that is likely to make you sick. Opposition to the plant has been going on for a dozen years. It's time our congregation joined this fight in a big way. Here are two things to get started. First, advocate for 3 bills pending in the state legislature that will end the use of biomass in Massachusetts. I'll name these bills, but when you forget, you'll find details in the chat and in one of our weekly newsletters. They are the 100% Clean Act, an act ensuring a healthy future for environmental justice communities, and an act to prevent biomass energy to protect the air we breathe. Second, consider joining the UU Mass Action Virtual Legislative Advocacy Day on April 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And now it's time for our offertory music and an opportunity for those of you who are so moved to contribute to UU Society Manchester East Sunday offering or to our own. We share our Sunday offerings 50-50 with organizations that are chosen by our coordinating council, and for the rest of the year, we're supporting the Movement Voter Project, Hands Up for Haiti, Cathedral in the Night, which is a program that provides a meal for homeless people in Northampton on Sunday nights, the First Nations COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund, and our good partners in immigration justice, the Pioneer Valley Workers Center. So enjoy the offertory music, and your generosity is very, very, very much appreciated. For meditation this morning, we have some fragments of poems by Kabir. Do you have a body? Don't sit on the porch. If you are in love, then why are you asleep? Wake up, wake up. You have slept millions and millions of years. Why not wake up this morning? The news of gun violence across the country this past week might feel like reason enough to stay asleep. Let's take a moment now in silence to sit with everything that is on our hearts this morning. Havana, Shira, Shira, Alleluia. Havana, Shira, Shira, Alleluia. Havana, Shira, Shira, Our reading comes from Lynn Unger, who served for many years as the Minister of Lifespan Faith Development for the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is an online UU congregation. Some of you probably remember the plot of the fairy tale about the brother and sister Hansel and Gretel. They go off into the forest, they trail breadcrumbs behind them, so they'll be able to find their way home, but birds eat the crumbs, they get lost, they get hungry. And they come upon a candy-covered gingerbread house and begin to eat it. The witch lures them inside, puts Gretel to work, puts Hansel in a cage where she's fattening him up and planning to turn him into a delicious boy stew. But the witch has bad eyesight and Gretel is clever, so she gives Hansel a twig to stick out of the cage whenever the witch wants to feel his finger to see if he's fat enough to butcher. So as I remember it, the story ends badly for the witch. But nevertheless, it's a scary story. So this is Hansel and Gretel by Lynn Unger. Read it again, she says, and we do. The same disaster, predictably reenacted night to night. Don't go in, I want to warn them. It's a trap. But children rarely listen, and storybook characters never. When Hansel and Gretel see that candy-covered cottage, their entrance is inevitable. Each decision is invariably a rigged game. The witch is always ravenous and grasping, the children neglected and naive. Preach all you like about conversion, about goodness and unending grace. You know the witch will never lose her taste for the sweet, resilient flesh of boys. Night after night, we stumble into the forest of our fears, and night after night, we're duly caught. Every morning, we awake for the same reports of mayhem, and every morning we poke forward some narrow stick of ourselves, hoping to get by uneaten one more day. But listen. Every time through the story, we can drop a small stone. Others have, too. I've seen them, glowing in the moonlight, a nightly shifting of the scene, building a path, both ragged and new. Next time, look down. Tear your vision from the gingerbread house. Drop a stone. And tell the children. Wake up. Wake up. You have slept millions and millions of years. Why not wake up this morning? Who, me? Who am I? What's easy to forget about the story of Moses and the burning bush, and what's so striking in the biblical account, is how reluctant Moses is to accept the charge, especially considering who's charging him. Some commentators suggest that this is evidence of Moses' humility, which is an admirable quality in a leader. I think that that's somebody standing on a bema or in the pulpit, stretching the evidence to make a point. I think Moses is just scared, and why not? A voice from a blazing bush out in the middle of nowhere is telling him to return to Egypt, which he left for very good reasons, and to take on its powerful ruler. And Moses is also very aware of his inadequacies. He didn't grow up with these people. He was raised by the Egyptians. He's slow to get his words out, which makes him a lousy public speaker. And his life in Midian is pretty good. He has a wife, he has a son. So, everything being equal, Moses would probably prefer to stay asleep and keep poking forth that same stick of himself, continuing to hope he won't get eaten. I have a lot of empathy for Moses. And I wonder if you can think of times in your own life when you were called to make a decision that took you out of your comfort zone, when you were asked to do something for which you didn't feel ready or adequate. Maybe it was taking on new responsibilities at work, or making a deeper commitment to work for racial justice, or other forms of social justice or community service. Maybe it was caring for an aging relative, becoming a parent, becoming a step parent. Who, me? Who am I? That's how I felt the first time I had to give a speech at a conference. This was in the 1980s, and I was the young finance director of a very small biotech company. I had a boss who had a habit of handing me responsibilities and expecting me to figure out how to deal with them, which was good in many ways. This speech was about the company's research and its product and its hoped-for products in a simple enough way that I, a non-scientist, could explain the science in a credible way. The way I thought about it afterwards was that I had survived the ordeal. Never again. And then a week or so later, my name was in the paper. It was a very small paper. One of the women who worked on the packing line at this company had seen the article in a local East Cambridge weekly. It mentioned the conference and the local companies and speakers that had presented there. And she had put it up on the bulletin board in the lunchroom. The ladies on the packing line were all 20, 30 years older than I was. They were from the surrounding neighborhood. My office was 3 flights of stairs above the manufacturing floor, and I didn't have much contact with them, but when they saw that article, they were excited. A woman was important enough to give a speech. A woman was a leader in the place they worked. They were proud of me, and I was touched and I was amazed. Drop a stone. Drop a stone. You don't know who might see it glowing in the moonlight and take courage, or who might later follow the path you're laying down. 10 years earlier, I got a job as a lead counselor at the Girl Scout camp that's about 35 miles west of here. It was not how I had wanted to spend my summer, a waitressing job that I had lined up that would have given me plenty of time to work on my tan, fell through in early June, and this camp job at that late date was all I could find. This was the first time I was in Western Massachusetts. It was my first time in a supervisory position. Most of my prior experience had been waitressing and babysitting. I wasn't quite 21, which was their age requirement. I had worked as a counselor in a summer day program for special needs kids. And maybe the camp leaders were as desperate as I was. Anyway, they gave me the unit with the oldest girls entering 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. And I didn't have any of the technical skills of camping. I had only been to camp myself once when I was 10. I did know how to paddle a canoe, but I had forgotten, if I had ever really learned, how to build a fire. I had no idea how to lash sticks together, or use a crosscut saw, or cook eggs in a hole, or clean a latrine. I didn't know the songs, and I didn't know anything about supervising. The people in charge at that camp put the words in my mouth. One of the staff was, my staff was very young, and they told me that she would lose all confidence in me if I admitted all my deficits, so I just faked it. My other staff person knew I was faking, and for example, when I nonchalantly delegated one of them to do the fire building demonstration, but she had been assigned explicitly to be supportive of me. She was assigned to be my Erin. It wasn't all easy, but we made it work. She and I are still very close friends 45 years later. So I learned how to do the camping things, but most of what I was taught about leadership, those words that were put in my mouth, were in hindsight pretty misguided. Don't admit your weaknesses. Don't ask for help from the people who report to you. Only be accountable up. Follow the rule book. Never complain. It was a hard summer for the people who were running the camp. One of the unit leaders quit, 2 of them were fired. But I was lucky and I thrived. We were held to high standards, and we heard it often. You are here to grow girls, to help them gain confidence and strengths as they work and play together. We were there to drop stones. And I wonder now, as I look back on it, what might have been different if all the staff teams had all been encouraged to honor their members' different strengths and skills and support one another in our learning and growth. I think that happened anyway for me with my team. It was such an intimate setting, and we needed to trust each other, even come to love each other. The same thing happens in congregational life. People share their strengths and open their hearts to one another. Sometimes they confess their inadequacies or what they believe are their inadequacies, and they learn that others are there to fill in the gaps. People take turns leading, sometimes reluctantly at first, and following. And they figure out when and how to blur the lines between those two roles. A UU minister named Steve Crump wrote, "We labor not for praise or for a song, but for the good in doing the work. And we know that church life is about relationships. It's about relationships founded in love, the kind of love that the early Christian missionary Paul spoke of in lines that are often quoted and sometimes a little bit misused. He wrote, "Love is patient, love is kind. It is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things." And the reason I say sometimes they're a little bit misused is that Paul is not talking at all about romantic love. He is talking about love in the context of congregational life. The Greek word is agape. So I might be stretching it a little, but I think of it as a cross between compassion and a feeling of solidarity in community. It's expressed in the hundreds and hundreds of ways we care for one another and work for a fairer, more just world. It's expressed in the times when we know we are working in concert, when we are honoring each other's gifts, when we're allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, when we know and feel that leadership belongs to all of us. And agape is also felt when we're in our sanctuaries together, when at a word or through the music or in the silence, we know for just a moment that we are one. We have all been missing that experience, missing those sacred moments when agape permeates the worship space and enters our hearts. But make no mistake, that agape love is present still. It is helping us all get through. When we lead, when we follow, when we're just trying to live through another day without being eaten. When we drop stones and pick up those others have left for us. Please join now in singing our final hymn, "Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire." May love come into and remain in our sight, bringing us courage and liberating us into life. Go in peace.